Hey guys, Quacker Spooks here with another set of NFL predictions for Week 5. Aside from Thursday night, I didn't really get a chance to record before the Buccaneers-Bears game, so instead, I'm going to tell you who I predicted was going to win, and then I'm going to talk about the game itself. I predicted the Buccaneers were going to win this game. Buccaneers had a pretty decent start for the first half, at least. The Bears did try to come back up and score a touchdown at the end of the half, leading them up by 1. Third quarter was actually pretty decent until the very end of it, when every single play had a penalty against either team, and it was like it was penalty after penalty after penalty after penalty, and it was just aggravating to watch. Seriously, can these guys actually play football without getting penalized? I mean, they can, but why didn't they? Refs were kind of strict at the very end of the third quarter there. And the third quarter ended up being terrible. The fourth quarter, on the other hand, was even worse. Neither team had any answers for each defensive line. When they were at fourth down, what do? They kicked field goals. Why? Because they were in field goal range and they could do it. So the the Buccaneers actually got the first field goal of the quarter and trailed up a lead of 17-14. Actually, 16-14. Then the Bears gained possession of the ball and got a fourth down. So what did they do? They kicked a field goal and made it, giving them a lead of 17-16. Same thing happened with the Buccaneers. They scored a field goal, made it, ended up gaining a 2-point lead, 19-17. But something happened at the very end of the game. A minute left in the fourth quarter. The Bears' offense was shot. Both offenses were pretty shot, actually. And then, you guessed it, they kicked another field goal. It was just consecutively back and forth and back and forth. It happened twice in a row for each team. So the clock ran out and the Bears ended up winning 20-19, which goes against my prediction. What did the Buccaneers do to deserve this? Well, they signed Tom Brady. They signed Gronkowski. They signed Leonard Fournette. Tom Brady just looks frail. I don't know why he's still playing football. He's 43 years old. He's been playing the game for 21 years. This is his 21st season playing professional football. He played football in Michigan and was a 6th rounder. I believe he was the 199th pick overall. What did the Bears do to deserve this win? They started Nick Foles. So yeah, the Bears won. Now let's talk about the games that haven't been played yet. The Jacksonville Jaguars take on the Houston Texans. This is the first game of the Texans without Bill O'Brien in a while. Because, Bill O'Brien just got fired last week. Actually, on Monday. Today's October 10th. I should be watching college football right now, but I didn't get a chance to record my predictions yet. So, I'm doing it now. The Texans just look terrible. Just because they fired Bill O'Brien doesn't mean they're going to be any better. Let's hope Romeo Crennel can actually do something about that offensive line, because it looks terrible. Okay? The Texans just look awful. But thank God they did fire Bill O'Brien. Because he's gone. He's finally gone, and he's on the unemployment line, guys. We finally fired him. They finally fired Bill O'Brien. It's been a while. Bill O'Brien's been a hack for years. And why was he on the team for 7 years? 7 seasons. I don't know why they made him the general manager, too. That was a complete mistake. So, yeah, I'm not sure how Romeo Crennel's going to do. So, I'm going to go with Jacksonville because, they might have a chance at winning. They might not. Actually, they have a very good chance of winning. Because the Texans are terrible. So, I'm going to go with Jacksonville on this one here. Look at that, a division rivalry game. The Cincinnati Bengals face off the Baltimore Ravens. They're both division rivals. And one of the teams is actually really good, and the other one is pretty, I don't particularly like the Bengals, but I'm going to go with Baltimore on this one because Lamar Jackson has a good arm, and their offensive line is loads better than what the Bengals have. They have Joe Burrow, but, who else do they have? It's kind of unsettling just to see the Bengals win against the Ravens because, the Bengals offensive line does absolutely nothing for itself, and the Ravens can actually get a running game in. I've seen the Ravens play. Then again, they did play the Chiefs. But I've seen the Ravens play against the Texans, and that was a blowout. Because, Bill O'Brien was still the head coach at the time. That was in week 2. Week 1, they faced the Browns and clobbered them 38-6. So I'm going to go with the Ravens on this one because the Bengals have no offensive line except for Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson has a better arm than pretty much anyone except for Patrick Mahomes. Nobody can beat the arm of Patrick Mahomes. So, now let's go on to the 2-2 Carolina Panthers, who are facing off the 0-4 Atlanta Falcons. How are the Falcons that terrible? Seriously. Yeah, I get Matt Ryan is a pretty decent quarterback, and, their offensive line is pretty decent, but they can't do anything. They get stomped all over by the defensive line that can actually do something. And the Panthers did go to the Super Bowl. And so did the Falcons. But they lost. Both teams lost. The Panthers recently released Cam Newton, and now he's on the New England Patriots as their starting quarterback. And the Falcons still have Matt Ryan. He was drafted in 2008. Come on, guys. He's 35 years old. What are you doing? Let me tell you a little story. Super Bowl 51. The Atlanta Falcons versus the New England Patriots. Most football fans like myself know about this story. The Falcons have a 25-point lead in the third quarter. New England scores. New England scores again. They keep consecutively scoring until they reach the Falcons' score of 28. The game goes in overtime. An amazing touchdown drive by Tom Brady settles the game, and the Patriots ended up winning 34-28. Week 2 of this season, the Falcons have a 19-point lead against the Dallas Cowboys, of all teams. At least the difference between 28-3 and 26-7 was that the Falcons scored more points after that and ended up having a lead of 39, at least to 30. The Cowboys score another touchdown and make the game extremely close, 39-37. The Cowboys gain the ball after an onside kick because the Falcons don't know onside kick rules. And they score a field goal to win the game. This is the second time they blow a lead. A significant lead. It happened again in Week 3 against the Chicago Bears. Falcons were at least up by 15 or 17, and I think they were at 23. Falcons had no answers for the Bears' offensive line after Mitch Trubisky got benched. And Nick Foles was the starter. Nick Foles threw a tremendous pass to a Bears wide receiver that scored a touchdown, and they won the game for them. Two in a row, Falcons. 2 in a row. I don't understand why Dan Quinn hasn't been fired yet. Texans had the balls to fire Bill O'Brien. Why don't they fire Dan Quinn? Why don't the Jets fire Adam Gase right then and there? Oh, that's right. He's still the head coach after an 0-4 campaign. I hate the Falcons. I'm going to go with the Panthers on this one. They're going to be 3-2, and the Falcons are going to still be 0-5, and they're going to keep Dan Quinn because, they're going to be a terrible football team. They lost 4 in a row. Next game. The 2-2 Oakland Raiders. They're in Las Vegas now. What? Yeah, they moved. finally had the chance to move to Las Vegas this year. I thought that was only a rumor. Nope, they're in Vegas now. Okay. My apologies. The Las Vegas Raiders face off the Kansas City Chiefs, who are undefeated right now. The Chiefs are 4-0. The Raiders are 2-2. Derek Carr looks pretty decent, even though they lost against the Bills. And that was kind of a deserving loss at that point because the Bills actually look good. And the Bills aren't on bye week. I know the Lions are. I don't see the Lions anywhere. But so Patrick Mahomes is just unstoppable. Derek Carr is an okay quarterback, but then again, they have Henry Ruggs as a wide receiver, and Tyreek Hill is a machine. Patrick Mahomes has the arm of Zeus, and Tyreek Hill is just a machine on the field. I remember when Kareem Hunt was on the team. He hit his girl. He's hit his girlfriend, and the Chiefs released him, and now he's on the Browns. He downgraded from the Chiefs. I don't even know who their running back is now. But the Chiefs are a good football team. The Raiders are okay. So I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. I'd root for the Chiefs any day. So, yeah. The Chiefs, I'd root for the Chiefs any day. Sorry, Raiders. You're going 2-3. These Chiefs are going 5-0. Undefeated. Speaking of Adam Gase, let's talk about the next game. The Arizona Cardinals face off the New York Jets. Jets. Pretty much how my high school's football team performed last night. Honestly, the opposing team's defensive line was outstanding. Our quarterback got sacked several times, and they had no answers. They did score a touchdown at the end of the game, though. But the opposing team ended up winning 10-7 because our offensive line had no answers. And they just performed awful. They just performed awfully. So, and we're in green and white uniforms. So I call them the Jets. Just because you're 5-2 doesn't mean you're a good football team. You play down to your competition. You play terrible teams that don't even want anything to do with you. Seriously, they play terrible teams and end up blowing them out. That's literally how my high school football team works. They play down to their competition, and they don't make the games competitive. They're not a good football team. Just because you went 10-0 yet last year doesn't mean you're a good football team. Just because you make the playoffs doesn't make you a good football team. You played down to your competition. You have to have a sense of competition between you guys. So that's why I call my high school football team the Jets, because they're terrible. And speaking of, the Cardinals are going to win against the Jets because even though the Cardinals lost 2 in a row and won 2 in a row, the Jets lost 4 in a row. They're 0-4 right now, and Adam Gase is still the head coach, and I don't understand why. The Jets just look awful. The Cardinals look pretty okay for the most part. They're 2-2. But good God, the Jets are terrible. So I'm gonna go with the Cardinals on that one. Adam Gase should be fired at this point. Two teams in Pennsylvania face off. The 1-2-1 Philadelphia Eagles face off the 3-0 Steelers. They didn't play last week against the Titans because of a COVID outbreak, and 11 players tested positive for COVID. So they had to postpone the game to week 7. But the Steelers are back. And the Eagles still have Carson Wentz, and even though that he had a kid this year, it's inexcusable for him to be a terrible quarterback just because he's a dad now. It's just inexcusable. You're in the pros because you played good in college. And now you're just washed up and old and terrible. Seriously. Steelers. Steelers are winning because they're undefeated. They're dominating their division right now. So, the Eagles are losing. The Steelers are winning. Okay. Now, the LA Rams, the Los Angeles Rams, face off the Washington football team. I don't particularly like the Washington football team. And Dwayne Haskins isn't that good of a quarterback. Even though he's second year. He is completely nothing. So, the only time I'm going to watch the Washington football team is on Thanksgiving. When they play the Cowboys. Yeah, that's the only time I'm going to watch the Washington football team. Because it's a Thanksgiving tradition, and I'm going to abide by that, so I'm going to say that the Rams are going to win. Miami Dolphins face off the San Francisco 49ers, who got beat by the Eagles last week. Because they clearly had no answers for their offensive line. They lost a ton. The 49ers are 2-2. The Dolphins are 1-3. The only win they have was against the Jacksonville Jaguars in week 3. And that was a completely winnable game for Jacksonville. How does Jacksonville actually lose to Miami? Seriously. That was a gimme win. So, yeah, the Dolphins look complete. They're not great, but the only week was in which they were good was week 3 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers on this one. Oh boy. We do have a couple of postponed games. So, strap in, guys. Oh, look at that. The New York Giants face off the Dallas Cowboys. The Giants are 0-4 and the Cowboys are 1-3. Cowboys actually look pretty okay, but the Giants just suck. The Giants are terrible. Seriously, the Giants are bad. They have no seriously, they have no stamina anymore. Their offensive line is complete garbage. Andrew Thomas doesn't make the make the offensive line any better. The only good team in New York is the Buffalo Bills, who are undefeated right now, in which they play the Chiefs next week, and their undefeated streak will probably go away in that regard if they don't win this week. Because the Chiefs are going to be undefeated. So I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys because I don't particularly like the Cowboys, or the Giants are even worse, though. So I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys on that one. Then we have the Indianapolis Colts facing off the Cleveland Browns. I am from Cleveland, but I think the Browns are pretty decent this year. They're not great, but they're pretty decent. They're improving, I should say. The Colts actually look legit. I mean, Phillip Rivers, I think it's because Andrew Luck retired. I think they needed a star quarterback, so they got Phillip Rivers. We have Baker Mayfield. But, yeah, if OBJ stays in the game, hopefully, without any injuries, I think the Browns might have a chance at winning, but it's either or for me. But if I had to pick one, I'd have to go with the Colts, because even though I am from Cleveland, I can't say that the Browns could win against the Colts. The Colts are 3-1 right now. They're both 3-1, actually. Who knows? The Browns might end up winning. Sunday Night Football gives us the Minnesota Vikings facing off the Seattle Seahawks. The Vikings don't look good, guys. They're 1-3. I think they won in week 4 against the Texans. And the Seahawks are undefeated. I think they're dominating the NFC West. Yeah. So I'm going to go with the Seahawks on that one because Russell Wilson looks really good. And Kirk Cousins is complete nothing now. It's basically Carson Wentz all over again. Kirk Cousins just had a kid. Doesn't mean it's excusable for him to be a terrible quarterback. Russell Wilson is a really good quarterback. He's one of the best. Tying with Mahomes, I think they're two of the best quarterbacks in the league, actually. Seahawks are going to win that game. The second postponement of this season because of coronavirus issues. The Broncos facing the Patriots was supposed to be on Sunday, but due to a COVID outbreak in one of the teams, they postponed it to Monday night at 5 o'clock. Denver Broncos face on the New England Patriots. I think the Patriots are going to win because I think they're 2-2, and they're in the AFC West. East. I don't even know anymore. I think they're in the AFC North, actually. So, I think the Patriots are going to win that game against the Broncos. So, yeah. It's on Monday night at 5 o'clock. The second Monday night game. The Los Angeles Chargers face off The New Orleans Saints. As scheduled. The Chargers and the Saints. Chargers actually look better than I thought. Justin Herbert looks pretty decent on the field, even if he's a rookie. I think he's got a good arm. He's not in Oregon anymore, but at least he's doing decently. I mean, the Chargers have won a few games. Let me see their record. Chargers are 1-3. The Saints are 2-2. But if I had to pick one, I'd have to go with the Saints because, Chargers aren't that great either. So, yeah, the Saints are going to win that one. And another postponed game because of coronavirus. The Buffalo Bills face off the Tennessee Titans, who had the first COVID outbreak in the season. 11 of their players tested positive for the virus, but which resulted in a postponement of the game against the Steelers. But they are still playing in Week 5. So the Titans are going to face the Bills, and I believe the Bills are going to win because they're undefeated and they're actually a good football team, while the Titans are pretty decent. They're not really great. I believe the Titans are 2-2. 3-0, 4-0. Titans are undefeated. They're both undefeated teams, but I think the Bills have won more games. So I'm going to say the Bills on that one. Tune in next week on Thursday for my Week 6 predictions.